Hi, this is the AQA Summer 2017 GCSE Mathematics Higher Paper 2. This is the first of the two calculator papers. Question number 1. Circle the decimal that is closest in value to 39/800. Right, for this question, because we're trying to get an estimate here, we're just trying to find the closest in value, I'm going to round this number to one significant figure. So instead of 39, I'm going to call that 40. So I'll write that over here. So I've got 40/800. Now to convert this into a decimal, it's easier if the denominator is a multiple of 10. So I'm going to change this to, well, if I divide the numerator and the denominator by 8, that's going to change this to 5, and that's going to be 100. So now that I've got this as a multiple of 10, I can see that 5/100 is going to be the same as 0.05. Okay, so that's going to be the closest in value to 39/800. Question number 2, it says circle the area that is equal to 36 millimeters squared. Now, first of all, I just need to think about, well, if it was 36 millimeters and I was converting that into centimeters, then to change millimeters into centimeters, I would need to divide by 10. Yeah, so 36 millimeters would be 3.6 centimeters because I've divided by 10. But because I'm changing millimeters squared into centimeters squared, I need to divide by 10 squared. So I'm dividing by 100. So 36 divided by 10 squared, or 36 divided by 100, is going to be 0.36 centimeters squared. So 36 millimeters squared is the same as 0.36 centimeters squared. Okay, question number 3. A is 212 and B is 82. We want to circle the midpoint of AB. So in order to work this out, I need to find the midpoint of the x coordinates and the midpoint of the y coordinates. So to find the midpoint of the x coordinates, I'm going to do 2 plus 8. So I add them together and divide by 2 to find the midpoint. And I do the same thing for the y coordinates. It's going to be 12 plus 2 divided by 2. And that's going to give me the midpoint of the y coordinates. And I can see that that's going to be 2 plus 8 is 10 divided by 2 is 5. And 12 plus 2 is 14, divided by 2 is 7. So the midpoint of 2 and 8 is 5, and the midpoint of 12 and 2 is 7. So the midpoint of those two coordinates will be 5, 7. Question 4. Here is a sequence 90, 82, 74, 66, 58. We want to circle the expression for the nth term of this sequence. So we can see that it's reducing by 8 each time, so it's going down by 8 each time. So we know that it's going to be something take away 8n. Okay, so it's our negative 8n times table, if you like. So so it can't be that one, can't be that one, can't be that one, so it must be this one over here. Okay, let's just check. So if n was 1, so our first term, that would be 98 take away 8 times 1, which is 98 take away 8, which does give us 90. If n was 2, then that would be 98 take away 16, which is in fact 82, etc. So we can see that that works. Okay, question number 5. A code has 4 digits. Each digit is a number from 0 to 9. Digits may be repeated. The code starts 541, and for question 5a, we're told that Amy knows the last digit is odd, but it's not 7. She chooses a different odd number at random. What is the probability that she chooses the correct number? So we know that the odd numbers are going to be 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. We're told that it's not going to be 7, so there's 4 choices for her to make. The probability that she chooses the correct number is therefore going to be 1 out of 4, or 1/4. Okay, part B says the 4-digit code is changed to an even number. The first digit is 3, and we want to know how many possible codes there are. So we know that the first number is 3. The second digit, well, that doesn't matter. That could be anything between 0 and 9. So there's going to be 10 choices for the second digit. The third digit, again, it doesn't matter what digit that takes. So it can be anything between 0 and 9. So we're going to multiply this by 10. Okay, and the last digit, well, we know that has to be, because it's an even number, it has to end in either 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8 in order for it to be an even number. So there's actually 5 choices for that one. So we're now going to times this by 5. So the number of possible codes there's going to be is 10 times 10 times 5, or 500. Question 6. We're asked to complete the table of values for y is equal to x squared take away x take away 2. So over here we've got our x coordinate, and we need to use this equation to work out what our corresponding y coordinate would be. So let's have a go. If x is -2, -2 squared is going to be 4. And then we're going to take away a -2, and that's going to be the same as +2. And then we are going to take away 2 to give us y. So y is going to be equal to 4 plus 2, which is 6. Take away 2 gives us 4. Okay, if x is -1, we've got y is equal to, and we're going to have -1 squared. -1 times -1 is 1. Take away a -1, that's going to be the same as +1. And then we've got take away 2. And 1 plus 1 is 2, take away 2 gives us 0. And over here we're going to have y is equal to 2 squared, which is 4. Take away 2, take away 2, which again is going to give us 0. Okay, part B says draw the graph of y is equal to x squared take away x take away 2. Between the values -2 and 3, so between these values here. Okay, so we can mark on our coordinates here. We've got -2 in our as our x coordinate and 4 as our y, so we can go -2, 4, and we'll mark a point there. And then we've got -1, 0. We've got 0 and -2. We've got 1, -2. We've got 2, 0, and we've got 3, 4. Okay, and then we want to draw a smooth parabola to go through these points. Okay, and it should look a little bit like that. You need to try and be as smooth as possible, and be aware that these aren't straight lines. This should be a smooth curve that dips to a minimum point and then goes up again. Okay, part C says write down the x coordinate of the turning point of the graph. Now the turning point is going to be down over here, which is going to be the minimum point. So I think it's going to be around there. Okay, so the x coordinate of the turning point, we can see, well, that's going to be along this line over here, and the x coordinates is actually going to be 0.5. So I'm going to write 0.5 over here for my x coordinate. Question 7. We're going to use trigonometry to work out the length of x. So to start this question, I've got a right angle triangle, so I know that I can use my sine, cosine or tangent ratio. I'm going to decide which of those I'm going to use. So over here I've got my opposite side, and over here I've got my hypotenuse side because it's the longer side. So the ratio that connects the opposite and the hypotenuse is going to be my sine ratio, and I know that the sine of my angle theta is going to be equal to the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse side. Yeah, so we can start by writing that down. Now I know my angle is 72, so over here I can say, well, I know that the sine of 72 degrees is going to be equal to my opposite side, which is x, divided by my hypotenuse side, which is 8. So I know that it's going to be equal to x divided by 8. Okay, now I can rearrange this by multiplying both sides by 8. So I know that 8 sine 72 is going to be equal to the side x. And now using my calculator, I've got 8 sine 72, and that tells me that x is going to be 7.61 centimeters. So over here I'm going to put 7.61 centimeters. Question 8. Lily goes on a car journey. For the first 30 minutes her average speed is 40 miles per hour. She then stops for 15 minutes. She then completes the journey at an average speed of 60 miles per hour. The total journey time is 1 hour. We need to draw a distance time graph for her journey. Okay, so for the first 30 minutes, her average speed is 40 miles per hour. So if she's traveling at 40 miles per hour for 30 minutes or half an hour, in that much time, it must be 20 miles that she's traveled. So it's 40 miles per 60 minutes. So in 30 minutes, she's going to have traveled half as much. So it's going to be 20 miles. So if we mark a point over here, and that's going to be there. So she's going to start from there, and after 30 minutes she will have travelled 20 miles. She then stops for 15 minutes, which means that the distance doesn't increase for 15 minutes. So that's going to be 5, 10, 15. So that will take us to that point there. She then completes the journey at an average speed of 60 miles per hour. Now the total journey time is 1 hour. So we've had 45 minutes so far. We've had 30 minutes here and the 15 minutes here. So she does another 15 minutes at 60 miles per hour. So if she's going 60 miles per 60 minutes, then in 15 minutes she must travel 15 miles. So 5, 10, 15, and she must travel 15 miles in that time. So we've got 5, 10, 15. And that takes us there. So if we draw the distance time graph, we should have something that looks like, do it in green, starts from there, across there, and up there. Okay, part B says write down the average speed of the total journey. Okay, so the total journey has taken her 60 minutes, so it's taken her 1 hour, and in that time she's travelled 35 miles. So her average speed must be 35 miles per hour. The table shows information about some CDs, so we've got types of music and the number of CDs. A CD is chosen at random. The probability it is rock is 1/20. We need to work out the probability it is jazz. So probability of being rock is 1/20th, and because 2 people like rock, then this probability, it would be more convenient to write it as 2 something, 2 out of something. So because that's 1 out of 20, we can write this as 2 out of 40. Yeah, so that's 1/20th. So we're going to write it as 2/40th. Now that's useful because now that 40 is telling us how many CDs there are altogether. We know 2 of them are rock. X 40ths are going to be pop, and 2x plus 5 40ths are going to be jazz. Now because we know how many there are altogether, it's 40, that information should help me work out what the missing value x is, because 40 must be equal to 2 plus x plus 2x plus 5, because it must be equal to the total number of CDs. So if I simplify that, I've got 40 is equal to 2 plus 5, which is 7, plus x plus 2x, which is 3x. If I subtract 7 from both sides, then that's going to be 33 is equal to 3x, and then I can divide both sides by 3, and that tells me 11 is equal to x, or x is equal to 11. Okay, so now we know what this value of x is. We need to work out the probability it is jazz. So if x is equal to 11, the number of jazz CDs is going to be 2 times 11 plus 5. So number of jazz CDs are going to equal 2 times 11 plus 5, which is 27. So we know that there are 27 jazz CDs altogether, and we know that there are 40 CDs altogether, so the probability it is jazz is going to be 27/40. Question 10. The pie chart shows information about voters in an election. We've got 110 degrees worth of men that voted, and the rest of the voters were women. We're told that 3,360 more women voted than men. So that was 3,360 extra women voted than men. We need to work out the total number of voters. Well, I know the men took 110 degrees of this pie, so the women must have had, well, 360 degrees take away 110 degrees of the pie. So the women must have had 250 degrees of the pie. So that's going to be 250 degrees. Now we know that 3,360 more women voted than men, so I want to know how much more of the pie women got than men. Well, if men got 110 degrees, then women must have had 140 degrees more than the men. We'll work that out by doing 250 degrees take away 110 degrees, and that gives us 140 degrees. So that's how much of the pie that women had more than what the men had. Okay, so we know that 140 degrees must be worth 3,360 people. So I want to work out how much 1 degree is worth. So to do that, I'm going to do 3,360 divided by 140. So if I grab my calculator, I've got 3,360 divided by 140. And that's 24. So that means each degree of this pie is worth 24 people. Okay, so because we want to know the total number of voters, so 1 degree worth is 24 voters, I need to now multiply that by 360. And that gives me 4 times 360, and that gives me 8,640. So there must be 8,640 total voters. Question 11. Write these numbers in descending order, so from biggest to smallest. Right, okay, so the best way to do this is to convert these numbers into ordinary numbers. So we'll start with this one over here. We've got 9.56 times 10 to the power of 3. So that's going to be, I need to times that by 10 3 times, so it's going to be 9,560. Over here we've got 9.56 times 3 to the power of 10, so I'm just going to grab my calculator to help me do this. 9.56 times 3 to the power of 10, and that gives us 564,508. Okay, so we can see quite clearly this is the largest number over here, which is 9.56 times 3 to the power of 10, followed by this number here, which is 9,563, followed by 9,560. Question 12. A, B, C, D, E, F are points on a circle. We need to circle the line that is the diameter of the circle. Okay, the first thing we need to do here is we've got two triangles, and we're just going to write down what the missing angles in these triangles are. So over here I've got 5 and 95, and I've got this missing angle over here. So 5 and 95 is 100. So this one over here must be 80, because we do 180 take away 100. And over here we've got 10 and 80, which is 90, which means this one over here, well, that must be 90 degrees, and I'm going to mark it as a right angle, like so. Okay, and we need to circle the line that is the diameter of the circle. Now, using my knowledge of circle theorems, I know that if I draw any angle going from my diameter to anywhere else on the circle, I should get a right angle. So that tells me the line AD must be the diameter, because I've drawn an angle going off the diameter, and that angle has made a right angle. So AD, using my circle theorems, must be the diameter of the circle.